infantry training at Camp Pendleton. I had 2 days to go, and we were going to go to Japan. And the whole company was happy. It was a good duty station. And 2 days ago, we were up in the field, and we had lunch, and the lieutenant said, 2 men in the company were picked to go to Korea. And he says, I think they went alphabetical order. And he reached in his pocket, pulled out a paper, Holmes and Horton.
Oh,
2 guys go to Korea.
oh boy.
And that nice duty station out the window.
Yeah.
Well, I had to say goodbye to my company guys I was with. And we got a 10-day leave after infantry training. I lived in Wisconsin. It took me 2 days to go home. And I was only seeing my mom and them for about 5 days. I had to head back to be in San Francisco. And on a train that took 2 days both ways.
All right.
And I got to San Francisco and went through my shots and all that. And there was 3,000 Marines, 5,000 Army guys. We're all going on one ship.
Oh my.
8,000 of us.
What year was that, Bob?
53,
That was in 53.
early 53. And when I stood in line to get my shots to go, there was a sergeant with us who said he'd been on the ship we were going on, the U.S. General Walker. At the time, it was the largest troop ship in the United States. And he says, I'm going to give you some advice. He says, when you get in there, they had swinging hammocks. He says, get in there and get to the top one right away, as fast as you can. And it was good advice. And me and Horton, we kind of stuck together, and only 2 that knew each other. We got on that ship and we both got up on the high racks. And within 2 or 3 days, I could see why everybody was getting seasick. And it hit rough water. And we were all had to stay below decks the whole trip. And it was a 16-day trip to get to Korea. And I never got sick of that. I made every chow, and me and a bunch of us that were healthy though, we had to get the buckets of water and wash the decks down all over the place. And in a week, the whole ship smelled like vomit.
Oh,
And even the sailors who ran the ship were getting sick. I couldn't believe it. We hit rough water, and we couldn't go up on the deck, but when the weather was clear, we went up for 20 minutes for calisthenics, 1 company at a time, and back down. 16 days. So finally, we said we're pulling into Seoul, Korea, and it was after dark. And unloading it, we pulled in, we couldn't see what anything looked like. And I think they had 3 ramps going down to unload 8,000 of us. And we lined up as far as you could see, and they had 6 lines of big 6x trucks waiting to haul us out. And they said everybody, the first time they ever touched live ammo, they gave everybody an ammo belt. And we're all on that pier standing, almost 8,000. And a loudspeaker come on and said, lock and load. And you couldn't believe the noise, everybody locking up. The first time outside of a shooting range that you could do that. And it was something to hear that. Everybody, and then a few of them yelling when they got their thumbs caught. But it was dark, and behind us was big 6x trucks and jeeps waiting, and they had numbers on them. And loudspeakers called names out. And it got to me, and they called Horton. So I said, oh good, we're going together. And we got on the back of this big 6x, and it was packed. And we took out of Seoul. As soon as we got out of town, it's pitch black. Couldn't see the surroundings. They had headlights that just shot to the ground, so we couldn't see nothing. And I could see trucks behind us turning off the roads. And we kept going and going. And then they stopped 4 guys to get off. And the Jeep had taken somewhere. They went down, they got down to 4 of us in there, left in that truck. So they pulled over and 2 Jeeps came behind us. 3 guys got in 1 Jeep, and I'm riding all by myself. I'm the last person. And I said, why, how come I'm not, everybody else got off in 3s and 4s? And I got in a Jeep with a guy and he says, you're going to the 4.2 Mortar Company. I didn't even know what they were. And we went for about an hour, and it was getting here at 2:30 in the morning. And we finally hit a spot, and a guy came out, he was a guard, on guard duty, and waiting for us. And I got out and shook hands with a Jeep guy, and this guard walked me back up about 3 blocks where they were sitting. And they had little tents set up, 8-man tent. And he says, there's an empty rack in that one waiting for you. And it was something, an experience. I couldn't see a thing. I didn't know what it even looked like outside around the tent. It was so black. And then next morning, I met the lieutenant, and this was just a small platoon, not a company. With just 3 guns, 8 men a gun, and the lieutenant, staff sergeant, and the sergeant. That was our platoon that was sitting there all by themselves. Then in the morning, I went to immediate instructions on how to operate a mortar, become a...
It's a good idea if you don't know.
First you become an ammo man, you learn how to fix the rounds up. Then you have to learn how to be the assistant gunner, pick it up and turn it a certain way, and then one to run the sights. And this sergeant took me out there for 4 days, all day long, showing me how to do it. And the only thing I picked up real good was on the sight, how to work it. And I made a big hit with the lieutenant and everybody. And he said, he usually starts you out as an ammo man, an assistant gunner, and a gunner. They wanted to put me right in as a gunner. And I did. And I credit it to the sergeant that taught me. He sat down, really had papers and showed me that, stripped everything down on the weapon, showed me how to take it apart and how to work that sight. And it was quite an experience. And I caught on fast to it. And the sight, the assistant gunner, when a mission came in, he has to pick up 100 and some pounds, pick up the barrel on his shoulder and pick it up and move it to where the mission is calling for it. And then immediately I got to get on the sight and get it on the target that the mission says. And the ammo men are preparing the ammo to drop in the mortar at the same time. And we were all getting pretty good at it. And there's 8 guys on a gun. There's 3 guns. We call them guns. And each one tried to beat the other one who could be up first. And even as a new man, I was up first. I couldn't get over it. But I thought it was easy the way that sergeant taught me how to use this.
That's great.
And anyway, it went on there, and I seen how to work everything. 1 hour I learned how to fix the ammo. Those big rounds, there were 27-pound rounds, and there's a shotgun shell in there, and the ammo men have to take, as the mission comes in, the first thing they tell you is how many rings of explosives to put on the back of the round. And then, for me, so the assistant gunner, the next numbers tell him where to sit the gun, and then the numbers tell me where to put the sight for a mission. And we got good at it. And we went on, and some of the guys might have got mad that I was a gunner right away, but we made friends, all of us. And they had us moving around. Now, we're not like a company, an infantry company. Our company of mortars, 3 platoons, is split up between 3 battalions. So each one of our companies was assigned to a battalion. We never saw our other platoons. We were all by ourselves. And the battalion told us where to move to. And we always moved to the back side of a big mountain, way down, and we shot over the mountain so nobody could see us. We're hidden. And that's what you do with mortars, you hide. Kind of a bad thing because what we did, nobody could shoot back at us. And we did a lot of stuff. And we run into some infantry companies, we tell them, when you're out there, how many of you guys, Vietnam, been under artillery attack? And you? You know, we tell them, when the round comes out near you or out in the field, and a round lands, a block or two away from you, get your shovel, start digging a hole, or run as fast as you can and look for a hole. Because we fired, all of our mortars do this, we fire one round, because the FO sees somebody. He calls down, he wants run out one round out there to see where it landed. And we got about as fast as we can for him to come back to us and tell us, move it over to here where they're at. And if you know, once we find where you're at, you can't get away. We had 3 guns, and each crew had 6 rounds to fire immediately from the ammo men. And like, I was on number 1 gun, 2 and 3. I would fire 6 rounds across like that. The other one would fire over the top 6 rounds. The other one would fire underneath 6 rounds. And then if need be, we could reverse and go anywhere you want. We could go almost 5-mile range out. Very deadly.
5 miles.
Now, in Vietnam, they had 4.2 mortars in Vietnam. They used the World War II ones. It was called the M3 at 42, and I had the M30, which is 650 pounds, can't be picked up right away and moved. The other one in Vietnam just had light legs on it. They could move it around fast. They only could shoot about 2 miles. And they went and got rid of that when they made the weapon I was in, because we could fire almost 5 miles, which they wanted. But when we moved, they told us to go somewhere else. We had to have a 6-by truck come and load it up. And he would drop us off where the battalion wants us to go. And he can't get to the right spot. We have to, it breaks down in 4 pieces. Our crew has to carry each one back about a half a mile into the hills to find the spot to set up, which was always tough.
Is this picture a shot of your handiwork?
Well, here, this here, we were finally, they had a ceasefire. We didn't know, we didn't get scuttlebutt or anything. We had no idea what was coming. And when the next morning we woke up, we didn't get any missions. Nobody's calling us or don't hear anything, planes or anything flying. And we said, well, there must be something going on. It went on about 3 days, and finally the captain came out with us and said they signed a ceasefire. And we all cheered, we're going home. The captain said, no, you're not. He says, we don't know what's going to happen. And he says, every one of you guys are going to be extended indefinitely. You're not going home in 9-1's rotation. And he says, we're packing you all up. You're going up to the DMZ, and you're going to dig in permanently. And that's what they loaded us up in a caravan. And this bridge here was just built, but you see the other ones, they blew up there. Almost everywhere you went, they were put a new bridge next to the old ones. And we went up to the DMZ, and we never did this before. They sent us 2 big trucks of railroad ties, sand and sandbags. They told us, everybody, each crew on their own gun, dig a 12-by-12 5-foot hole and a big round circle 16 feet in diameter, 3 feet deep, and sandbag it. And the railroad ties, we had to make an ammo bunker. And they loaded it up with ammo. And that was quite a job for us. They had to send some guys out to help us how to do it with the railroad ties. We never did that before. Make it. Then you had 5 layers of sandbags over the top of that. And then he made us dig a zigzag trench leading into the door of the bunker. And he put a slot in it so the both ammo men could roll the round out to the guns to get it. So it was really neat. And I got a picture of that somewhere. But up on top of the hill that we were behind, there was a road up there that was the DMZ going into separated the North Korea and us. The lieutenant let one gun crew at a time go on top of the hill a week after we got there, and there was a prisoner exchange going on. And it was something to see. I wish everybody could have saw it. All the Korean prisoners were on these trucks. And they had about 20 big 6x loaded with them. They were going back to North Korea. And as they were going out, they took all their clothes off down to their shorts and threw them at us. They wanted to go back to Korea, like we weren't treating them nice. And then after they got up and they went across the DMZ, here comes about a half hour later, these little Red Cross trucks, maybe only 10 of them, for all those guys we sent over. They came back, and that was something to see. As they opened the door, most of them were skeletons. And then most of them they carried off in stretchers, and they had a whole line of helicopters to take them out to the hospital ships. But I had my camera there. I had 2 pictures left, and I took them of the prisoners going out, and when they came in, I had no more pictures. But,
Will you take it back to the first photo? And then you got a bunch of photos here. Did you want to walk us through those, just a little bit about each one?
See
And
that ship? That's the one I was telling you was the world's largest. We were down inside below those decks, 8. There was 8,000 troops to be transferred there, and that's not counting the Navy crew.
and then
And it was something to be locked up down there.
Are you in
And then-
any of those pictures, Bob? With the
Pardon?
guns? Are you in any of those pictures of the guns?
Yeah, yeah. Now that's
Show us you.
the mortar there.
Go back to the first one.
And you see when the assistant gunner grabbed those 2 handles, he had put his shoulder on there, and that you have to train. When a mission comes in, he has to pick that up and drop it down to approximately where it is. And then I gotta get up on the site, and we got stakes out there, get 0, and then to the mission where it's supposed to go. And I can only traverse about 6 inches, 8 inches. So where he drops that is very important to be up quick. So you're going to have to keep moving it. And these guys were good. They dropped it. I looked in the sights and it was right there.
Which one are you in that photo, Bob?
And it was accurate. I'm the corporal. Another thing,
You're the corporal. It's the PFC, isn't it?
not a corporal.
What? Oh, I can't see. Okay.
we didn't have, you took a marker and made your own stripes. You didn't have
Why didn't you make yourself a sergeant then? You could have got paid more.
Now, I was way ahead of time. The only reason, being a gunner, called for a corporal. And I know I got ahead of them. But you just take a marker and made it. Anyway, the other guy's assistant gunner, and then there's 6 of the guys are prepare those rounds for you.
And then just say next slide, and he'll move to the next one whenever you're ready.
And on the back end of that round there, the ammo in it, there's a lock ring, you can see it. Every mission comes in, it tells you, put on 3 or 4 rings of explosive, and then push them on there, and then put the snap ring on it. And inside that tube is a shotgun shell. And when it hits the bottom of the tube, the shotgun shell ignites explosives. And I got to know the gun so well, as soon as he said how many rings of explosive, I knew just approximately we were shooting 3 miles, 2 miles, 2.5. And then I got to where, when we shot a bunch of rounds, I could take a stick and touch the dirt, and the next round I knew just where it would land, and approximately yards apart. If they asked for shoot the rounds so that they overlap, I could do that, or make them 100 feet, 50 feet, or 100 yards apart. And they're big rounds. Each one weighs about 26 pounds. A lot of explosives. They blow up and they turn shrapnel out everywhere. We had one other round with smoke, which we use once in a while for an airstrike. All of our calls came from forward observers, and we never see them. They're up on top of the hills. And then when he sets up, they put a circle around where we are on the map. And the forward observer knows we can hit anything in that circle.
Uh-huh.
And then behind us is like 105s, their circle's bigger. And behind them are the big weapons. And that's who he can call at when he wants, all the three of us.
Did you have woolly feeder rims?
Pardon?
Woolly feeder rims, white phosphorus?
We had phosphorus, smoke, and then the HE, we call it, high explosive. And then some of our rounds, they didn't like us use them, they were expensive. If there were people in trenches, you turn a dial on it, and you set the round, instead of hitting the ground, it'll go off overhead, whatever you set, 50, 60, 100 yards overhead. So it would go off and shrapnel would come down.
Airburst.
And so,
Airburst.
and then whenever we fired smoke, we knew there'd be an aircraft called somewhere. So that's what they do, they just,
Yeah.
for them to see. But, yeah, let's see, is there any other pictures there? That's what we had to break that thing down and carry it to the 8 guys did. The barrel and the ring is in 2 pieces, that big heavy piece. And then I had to carry the sight. It's in a big box. But we can move that thing pretty fast, but we can't go far. And when they told us to move to another mountain, we had to get a big 6x come as close as they could to carry it out there, load us up. And then we needed a truck to follow us with those big rounds, because they're 20-some pounds each, and they come in 2 in a box. And we could use each one would want 100 rounds to start with. So that had to be lugged from the road back to where we were.
How long were you in Korea?
Pardon?
How long were you in Korea?
That's another thing, I got extended. And it seemed forever, but I was there 14 months and 17 days before I got out. And I was up on the DMZ, and every day they killed, we had no more missions. But we had a lot of close calls. We'd go to bed at night, we'd hear explosions, and said, oh boy, it's starting. So we'd all run out on the guns. In the DMZ, it's 160 miles across Korea, and it's 2 miles wide, and they're on the other side. But you can see them when you get up, they're all on the hills, as you see each other, and it's 2 miles across. And they line field the whole thing of 160 miles, and what we've been hearing that we thought things were starting was somebody tripping the mines out there. And then they said most of it was animals doing it. And they'd trip these mines. So when I left, they were starting to bring in these people that go out and dig these mines up. And it took them over 25 years to go that 160 miles and clear the mines out that both sides put there. We dropped them and they dropped them and buried them. And I think they said there was about 3 million mines from one end of it to the other. And it took 25 years before and then they said they're not 100% sure they got them all. Now, when we were up there, like right now, they're there right today on that same line. When I was there, it was like toilet paper running the divided. You could see like a policeman's tape on their side and our side. Now, they've got all big walls, they got towers built on all the mountains, and they got lots of troops there, a lot more than, and my weapon isn't there anymore, because that's obsolete. Because anything that shoots up over a mountain now, the radar will pick it up, knows right where you're at.
Yeah.
They don't use them anymore.
Yeah.
But I would like to see where my,
There was a picture of winter time.
now show, this is why I'm deaf. The gunner and assistant gunner must stand with their head right next to the barrel. We're the only two. And the noise is just sharp,
Yeah.
and the dust flies up about 30 feet around each round.
Is that you on the left?
No, that's not me on this. This isn't my team.
Okay.
Now, this is me back there. This is one of the kind of spots they drop us off on. And our lieutenant goes in first and tries to find a spot for to set up our 3 weapons. It's up, and he just finds a spot that's flat and says, all right, drop them here. And you set up, but you notice we're always down behind the mountain so we can shoot over. And when we do, luckily, no infire came in on us. No, and whenever we're there and not on the gun, we pull camouflage netting over so that the planes can't pick us up. I think that's me there, the assistant gunner. I'm not sure of the pictures.
Just let me know when you want me to go to the next one.
Just keep moving a little bit. That's the ammo man. See how each one is responsible to get that round ready to drop. And as soon as that you fired, he goes back and gets more. And they line up for you. The bad thing is, every time I fired the weapon, I immediately got to get up on the sight and as fast as I can, put it to zero, take it to the mission, because every round moved the barrel and the thing moved back or sideways. And if we didn't do it, our rounds would start straying way off. And so every round, he'd drop it, I'd go on the sight, and as soon as I step back, he drops, it's back and forth just like that, fast. Yeah, this was, they didn't have a 6x truck, they sent a duck to move our weapons. And we drove to another spot. It was pretty cold over there. I took this picture. This was, I think it's Sewell, I'm not sure.
Is that a bunch of civilians back there?
Yeah, this is in Sewell. We went through it.
Okay.
Well, this is the day that we went up to the DMZ. We stopped for lunch on this side and we had lunch there. Then we loaded up and went across that bridge. It was quite, there's what it looks like today, that same bridge. That's today, you see the blowing up one over there.
Yeah.
And it's a 4-lane highway to get there.
Oh, I remember this.
Big freeway. And there's a, out there on that one bridge there's a tank out there that went down in that when they bombed it. There's our gun pits right there. You can see the 3 of them. They're kind of spread out. And up on top of that road, on the hill up there, that's where they brought the prisoners. I don't know where they came from, a prison camp. They brought them up just right near us, so we could go up there and see them going to take them back to North Korea. But every prisoner, they told them, do you want to stay? You can stay in South Korea and we'll take care of you, or you go back. A lot of them decided not to go back to Korea. Now here's where we all got food. The trucks brought us these, and we never had railroad ties before. He says, what is this? That's me on the t-shirt there. They said, you guys are gonna dig a big bunker house, 12 by 12. And it took us a long time to dig them up. Now this is right up below the DMZ. That's, see, we always had those screens over it. We had to make those up, put those pieces in there. That don't look like it. That's me over there and talking on the phone. And it was cold. This is Army guys. That's what the DMZ looks like today. They put these towers up there with, they got tanks. And when I was there every day, the tanks would drive by us and give us a big wave. They knew we were down there. But see how mountainous that country is. It's everywhere like that. And so when we hide behind a hill and then fire out at somebody in those valleys, they don't know where it's coming from. And we used to tell the infantry companies, if they fire on you, look at the highest peaks around you. Because up on top of the highest ones, there's FOs who saw you and called that artillery in. And we tell them, call for an airstrike and drop some napalm on the top of those high peaks. Because usually there's only 2 FOs they work in, and they crawl, make a hole, you could never see them up there. They camouflage with bushes, and they watch everything. And they got binoculars, they can see way out and call in for artillery. So if you get under that, you know somebody on these hills is calling that on you. And every day the troops are going, look how they barbed wire. That's a long way from toilet paper. That's the way it looks like now. They put a wall across. When we were there, that was toilet paper. They were right next to us. Every day they came by and waved at us. Now, my brother was in World War II, and he came back from he brought this flag from Japan, and a sword and a rifle. I think that's coming up. Yeah, that rifle is a Japanese sniper rifle. And ever since that time, that's why I wanted to join the Marines. And then there's those prisoners. These big trucks, there's 20 of them in a row. And it happened for 4 or 5 days. There was thousands and thousands of prisoners that they took and sent back to North Korea. And they all screaming and giving us the finger and throwing stuff at us. You see, we had guards lined up every 100 feet. The guards are on both sides of the road. And I had 2 shots with my camera, and I wanted to get pictures of our guys. And I no film, I just had to watch. But it was something, that was a sight to see. I wish everybody could have been there to see this sight up there when they exchanged prisoners. I never knew we had so many prisoners. This is another spot we moved to, and 2 infantry companies came right by us, and we watched them land. They took a lot of them off to the mountains in the helicopters, picked them up and took them out. This is another spot. This was one of the few spots we set up on open ground instead of hide behind a mountain. And it was just an unusual spot. It's flat, and we did pretty good that day. That was me standing there.
Looking tough.
That's awful.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right. And like I said, it was 14 months, 17 days.
What did you do when you returned to the States?
Yeah, they sent me, I got a 30-day leave. Then I went to Camp Lejeune, and as soon as I got there, they made me sergeant and sent me to a 4.2 mortar company.
Imagine that.
And so I became like a trainer. Now, 2 times, our captain had us go to Fort Bragg in South Carolina, an Army, and we had competition shoot. And I was on it, they put me on the gunner.
Yeah.
And on that one, we could see our targets. It was flat, and cables were pulling them across about maybe 3,000-4,000 yards, of almost almost a mile out. You could see them moving.
Yeah.
And I won 2, our gun